Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah Sani, and now let's compare. First of all, which player do you think he's the best? Either is he Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo? A bit confusing, right? Let's more compare. Which phone brand do you think it's better? Either is it Apple iPhone or Samsung Galaxy? More confusing, right? So, today me and my presentation colleagues will be discussing to you about amalgam and composite longevity. Because even in dentistry, we're not done with comparisons. So we're discussing about this headline. Okay, what is longevity? Longevity is the duration of the restoration inside of the oral cavity until it loses its function. Those are the names of the group members. And these are the objectives that we're going to speak about. First of all, we're going to discuss about the introduction, definition of amalgam, definition of composite, factors related to the operator, factors related to the patient, factors related to the material, longevity and studies, and last but not least, Majd will be discussing to you about the summary of all of our topic. And now, types of filling will be discussed by my colleague Saleh al-Sheikhi.
Hello everyone. Type of fillings. And now we're going to explain the amalgam restoration. Amalgam restoration. Amalgam is a metallic restorative material that composed of mixture of silver and tin and copper and mercury alloys. Amalgam has been primary direct restoration material in the United States for 150 years. Amalgam was introduced to the United States in the 1830. Classification of amalgam based on copper content, either low copper alloy or high copper alloy. Based on zinc content, based on shape of alloy particles, lathe cut alloy, spherical alloy, and admix alloy. Based on size of particles, micro cut, fine cut, and coarse cut. Properties of amalgam. High coefficient, it has high coefficient of thermal expansion, high compressive strength, and it's very brittle, especially in the low edges. It has high thermal conductor. It's a very high thermal conductor. We should use a base on liner in the deep cavities to isolate the bulb. This is very important. And it has a creep and flow. Indication and contraindication of amalgam. Of amalgam restoration. One of the indication, moderate to large class 1, class 2 restoration. Class 5 restoration in posterior teeth. We cannot use it in the anterior teeth for aesthetic purposes. Temporary caries control restoration. Foundation and core build-up material and dye materials. Now with the advantage and disadvantage of amalgam restoration. Amalgam restoration is easy to use, high compressive strength, excellent wear resistant, and low cost, lower than the composite. Disadvantage, it's a non-aesthetic material and less conservative cavity preparation and more difficult tooth preparation and initial marginal leakage. And now with the composite, and my colleague Khalid going to discuss it.
What's composite? Composite is a synthetic restoration material that replaced missing or defective part of the tooth structure. It was invented by Dr. Baum in 1962. The main composite of the composite: organic matrix phase, anorganic filler phase, couple agent, and amplificator active system. Property of the composite. Composite liner coefficient of thermal expansion, water absorption, wear resistance, surface texture, and radiosity and solubility, mode of elasticity. Indication and contraindication. Indication. We can use indication. We can use composite indirect restoration in only class, and we can use for temporary restoration, and we can use for cement for indirect restoration, our foundation, our core building. Contraindication. We can't use composite for fairly large cavity. And poor oral hygiene, and if I can't isolate. Advantage and disadvantage. The first advantage of the composite is the aesthetic and biocompatible and conservative and bound to the tooth structure. The disadvantage is polymerization shrinkage, requires special equipment like light cure, time consuming technique, and the last is technique sensitivity. And now with my Abdul Majid.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Majid Turki. I'm going to talk about, for sure, amalgam restoration. It should be care from the operator that affect on the longevity of the restoration. First, about the cavity preparation, depth and outline form, and inadequate extension to bits and fissure may increase risk of caries, especially in high risk caries individuals. About the depth outline form, depth it should be at minimum 1.5 to 2 millimeter from cavo surface margin. About the resistance form, ideal buccolingual width is 1/4 between interdental cusp, and it shouldn't be increased more than 2 millimeter. If it's increased, it will lead to fracture of the tooth, and it will lose resistance form, and the tooth it will be weakly. So capping is more important to be applied. About the retention form, we should do undercut cavity to perform the retention. About secondly, amalgam manipulation. Amalgamation is the process of multiplying more one material into one form, and it properly trituration. Proper condensation, we should do make coherent mass of filling and minimize the voids with the amalgam mass, and adapt the amalgam in all cavity margins and walls and line angles. Reduce the mercury as much as possible. Contamination can occur during trituration or condensation or milling. It results in marginal discrepancies, pitting, and may expansion lead to pain. About the finishing and polishing, for sure finishing it's completed prior to polishing. Finishing involves smoothing the surface and defining the anatomy, and removal all the marginal excess. It requires abrasive agents that remove excess from the surface of the amalgam restoration. About the polishing restoration, polishing should be properly contoured, should be properly contoured, and it affect on the longevity of the restoration and affect on the health of the surrounding periodontium. And next, the factors affect longevity of amalgam and composite by my colleague Amalgam.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammed Al-Garni. Today I'm going to talk about factor affecting the longevity of composite related to the operator. First factor we have lack of isolation. As we know, composite is very sensitive to moisture contamination, and if we fail to maintain the isolation, it will reduce the bond strength and mechanical properties of composite restoration. The second factor we have proper cavity preparation. And proper cavity preparation many dentists don't follow manufacturer instruction and adhesion composite, and they don't know it's different between the companies according to the market. The third factor we have here, light curing. Light curing, each composite requires a certain amount of energy for complete curing. This may be different to the manufacturer and the type of composite restoration, and also the shade of composite. The third factor here, proper placement technique. Proper placement technique, many experts recommended incremental placement of the composite because it decreases the C factor, and it will result in decrease the shrinkage stress. The fourth factor here, finishing and polishing. High quality of finishing and polishing improve both aesthetic and longevity of the composite restoration. Whereas the rough and poor polished surface, it may be cause plaque accumulation, gingival irritation, and recurrent caries, and also decrease of the discoloration of the restoration. And now I'm with my friend Ahmed Abu Dawood.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed Abu Dawood, and I will be explaining factors affecting longevity of restoration by the patient. First of all, we have oral hygiene. So I want you to imagine two patients coming to your clinic to restore their teeth. The first patient takes care of his oral hygiene, while the second patient does not. Which one do you think will have his restoration last longer in his oral cavity? Of course, it will be the first patient because he takes care of his oral hygiene. So oral hygiene is a major factor for restoration to last long in the oral cavity. Next, we have age. Age usually is followed up by the oral hygiene, just because people, when they get old, they start losing interest in taking of their oral hygiene. So this may decrease the longevity of a restoration. Next, we have bruxism, in another word, teeth grinding. This what usually happens when you get addicted to this habit for a long period of time. It will make it hard to restore, and it will last longer than other normal teeth. Next, we have caries risk patient. The more the caries risk patient, the more the recurrent caries will develop. We also have oral environment, for example, quality of tooth structure, saliva flow, and size, shape, location of the region. For example, the anterior region lasts longer than posterior region because of the stresses on the posterior region. We also have preparation size. The bigger the preparation size, the shorter it will live. Failure rate increases for both materials as cavity size and number of folds involved increases. 14.2% of large amalgam restoration needed to be replaced after 5 years only, as opposed to 19.8% of composite restorations. Cooperation during treatment. So I want you to think about two patients coming to your clinic again. The first one, you ask the first one to take care of his oral hygiene, for example, and the other one you ask him to do the same, but he does not. So the first one will obviously have his restoration last longer than the second patient. Next, we have factors affecting longevity related to material with my colleague, Amar Sharif.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm Amr Sharif. I'm going to talk about the important rule in the longevity of restorations. It's the material rule. A wide variety of material are used by dentists in the restoration of teeth. Many factors need to be considered by both the dentist and the patient when choosing the optimal restorative material for each procedure, with longevity of that particular restorative material being one of the most important. The strength of material. The strength of material is different in composite and amalgam. Amalgam has many types, like low cover of amalgam, high cover of amalgam, and the best one is high cover of amalgam. They used it newly in the last 20 years. They first used the low cover amalgam. It was very weak material, has many disadvantages, unlike the new one. And in the composite, it has many types: macrofield, microfield, nanofield, hybrid, and the best one, and they use it right now, is the nanofield. It's better than the microfield. We cannot use microfield in the posterior teeth because microfield has a smaller size of fillers and large volume of matrix. So we cannot use it in the posterior teeth because it has low mechanical properties. So wear resistance. A high wear resistance may contribute to the longevity of the restoration. So because the posterior region of the mouth need undergo the high forces, the high occlusion forces. So we need high wear resistance. And this is the mechanism that undergo the teeth or the restoration in the posterior region: attrition, abrasion, and corrosion. So we need material has high wear resistance, like amalgam. Amalgam here is better because it's metal alloy. It's not like composite. Composite has a low wear resistance, and this is the most disadvantage in the composite. Bond strength. The bond strength is different in the two materials. Amalgam we don't use adhesive system like composite in amalgam. Amalgam only we need is cavity preparation for more durability for the material. The technique sensitivity of adhesive system. Because the composite need coupling agent to bond it with the tooth structure, the coupling agent must be choose it correctly and follow the manufacturing structure and use it very well. And now with my colleague Ahmed Al-Ghamdi.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Al-Ghamdi. Failed. First, I hope we all pass it this year and no one failed. Second, I want to ask you a question. What do you think is the procedure that that occupying 60% of all operative procedures. The procedures that occupying 60% of all operative procedures is replacing a failed restoration. So, what is the most restoration material have the less rate of failure? Is it composite or is it amalgam? And to answer this question, a lot of studies was done to answer this question. And the result of this studies was that the amalgam has more longevity than composite. And each study that was done has its own rate of failure. The first studies would say 5 of restoration was failed per 100 restoration, and the other would say 7. And there is a variation between each study in the failure rate of the restoration for composite or for amalgam. And this will lead us to think that there is a factor affect each restoration in a different way that my friend just explained to you. And the study also shows that the class 1 restoration will have less longevity than the class 2 and then the multi-surface restoration. And also it shows the relation between the size of restoration and the rate of failure. The rate of failure will increase with the increase of size of restoration, as just my friend Ahmed mentioned. The causes of failure. The study mainly shows 2 causes. Number 1 is secondary caries, and the second cause was the fracture of restoration. And the causes were in all studies the same. There is no difference in the causes in all the studies. This is a table from one of the studies, and we show this is the amalgam. We have 1,000 restoration and composite 1,000 composite also, and here the failure rate, and shows the follow up the restoration for 5 to 7 years, and shows that 75 per 1,000 amalgam restoration was failed. On the other hand, we have the composite 142 restoration was failed per 1,000. We can see it is double the number of the amalgam. For the causes, the secondary caries was mainly to composite restoration. For the fracture of the restoration, we can say it is more an amalgam than composite, which is slightly more, not too much. Now with the summary with my friend Majd.
Assalamu alaikum. Mir Skandarani with you today. I will cover up all the subjects with you today. Firstly, my colleague Abdullah gave a brief introduction to our topic today. And then Saleh defined dental amalgam as a metallic restorative material, and he classified it according to shape, size, and mineral content. Furthermore, Khalid defined composite, listed its type, main components, properties, indications, and contraindications, advantages and disadvantages. In addition, Muhammad and Abdul Majid discussed with you how the operator can affect the longevity of amalgam and composite. After that, Ahmed illustrated patient factors affecting longevity of restoration. Also, Omar shared with us how material could have an impact on longevity. Finally, Adar Ahmed gave us insight studies showing that amalgam has a more longevity, and there is a factor affecting both amalgam and composite. I hope today you have enjoyable and educated time with us. Thank you.